The morning decides everything. Not because it's magical, but because it sets the tone you'll spend the rest of the day answering to. How you start is how you lead yourself. If the first thing you do is hesitate, delay, or reach for comfort, that pattern doesn't disappear by noon. It multiplies. Your morning is the first negotiation of the day. Win it, and the rest of the day becomes easier. Lose it, and you spend the next hours trying to recover control you willingly gave away before the sun was fully up. Discipline is not built in big decisions. It's built in the first small one. Do you take command of your day, or do you let it take command of you? When you start the day intentionally, you move with authority. You don't rush. You don't react. You act. You decide what matters before the world starts making demands. That's control. And control is the foundation of discipline. Without it, motivation doesn't stand a chance. The morning is where standards are set. If you keep your word to yourself at the start of the day, you create momentum. You prove something important before distractions arrive, that you can be trusted. That self-trust carries weight. It sharpens your focus. It steadies your mind. It changes how you walk into the day. A disciplined morning isn't about perfection or intensity. It's about ownership. Getting up when you said you would. Doing the first hard thing without delay. Choosing structure over chaos before chaos has a chance to speak. These small acts don't look impressive, but they build authority over yourself. And once you control your morning, you control more than just time. You control your reactions, your energy, your standards. The day stops pulling you in different directions and starts moving in the direction you chose. Win the morning, and you don't chase the day, you lead it. The first battle of the day is not out in the world. It's in your head, and it starts the moment you open your eyes. That moment decides whether you lead yourself or negotiate with weakness. When the alarm goes off, there is a voice that immediately looks for a compromise. 5 more minutes. 1 more scroll. 1 more excuse. That voice sounds harmless, but it's training you to break your word before the day even begins. And once you do that, every other promise becomes easier to break. Getting up without negotiation is a declaration. It says, I am in control. Not my mood, not my comfort, not my fatigue, me. That decision doesn't feel heroic, but it's powerful because it's a win over yourself. And self-mastery always comes before mastery of anything else. The snooze button is small, but the habit it builds is not. Every time you hit it, you practice delay. You teach your brain that commitment is flexible and discipline is optional. That lesson doesn't stay in bed. It follows you into your work, your goals, your life. Winning the morning begins with refusing that first compromise. Feet on the floor. No debate, no drama. Action. That simple act sends a signal through your entire system. Today, I do what I said I would do. That first win creates momentum. It sharpens your mind. It strengthens your resolve. You start the day from a position of authority instead of recovery, and when you win early, you're less likely to fold later. Victory doesn't start with big achievements. It starts with small acts of discipline done consistently. And the first one is always the hardest. Getting up when it would be easier not to. Win that moment, and you don't just start the day, you take control of it. Discipline matters more than your mood ever will. Mood is temporary. It shifts with sleep, weather, opinions, and comfort. Discipline doesn't care about any of that. Discipline is what carries you forward when your emotions are unreliable, and they will be. You are not required to feel like it. You are required to do it. The mistake most people make is believing action should follow desire. They wait to want it first. They wait to feel inspired, confident, energized. But obligation to your future does not depend on how you feel in the moment. Responsibility doesn't ask if you're in the mood. It asks if you're committed. Some days you will wake up focused. Other days you'll wake up heavy, tired, uninspired. Those days are not a problem. They are normal. The problem is letting them decide for you. When you tie your actions to your emotions, you hand control to something unstable. When you tie your actions to discipline, you take control back. Champions don't wait for inspiration. They move without it. They understand something simple and powerful. Inspiration follows action more often than action follows inspiration. Once you start, resistance weakens. Once you move, clarity comes. Once you engage, energy appears. Waiting keeps you stuck. Movement creates momentum. The difference between average and elite is not how often they feel motivated, it's how often they act without it. Champions show up on bad days, on boring days, on days when quitting would be understandable. That's why they separate. That's why they win. Discipline is not harsh. It's honest. It says, this matters, whether I feel like it or not. It builds self-respect because you stop betraying yourself for comfort. You stop letting emotions dictate outcomes. You become reliable. And once you become reliable to yourself, everything changes. You don't need to want it today. You need to do it today. That's discipline. And discipline always outlasts mood. While the world sleeps, the future is being built. Not loudly, not publicly, quietly, deliberately. In hours, most people surrender to comfort. Early hours are not about being extreme. They are about being intentional. When the noise is gone, focus returns, and focus is power. The early hours belong to you. No messages, no expectations, no distractions pulling at your attention. Just space. And in that space, you can think clearly, act decisively, and work deeply. That kind of focus is rare, and anything rare is valuable. Most people give their best energy away to the world and keep what's left for themselves. They wake up reacting, scrolling, responding, chasing. By the time they sit down to build their life, they're already exhausted. Early mornings reverse that order. You invest your strongest energy into your future before the world asks for anything. The silence of morning is not empty, it's loaded. It removes excuses, it exposes intention. In silence, you can't hide behind noise. You either work or you don't. That honesty sharpens discipline. This is why early hours are dangerous to mediocrity. Mediocrity thrives on distraction, on chaos, on delay. Silence suffocates it. It forces clarity. It forces commitment. It forces action. You don't need to be loud about waking early. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The advantage is not the time. It's what the time allows. Uninterrupted focus, repetition, consistency, progress without interference. While others sleep, you build. While others wait, you prepare. While others drift, you decide. And over time, the gap widens, not because you're better, but because you chose silence over noise and discipline over comfort. That's how futures are built. Morning habits shape your character more than any grand gesture ever will. The small things, the decisions you make before breakfast, ripple outward. One disciplined action compounds into another. One consistent choice strengthens self-trust. One refusal to compromise builds quiet authority over yourself. Every morning, you vote for the person you will become. Did you get out of bed on time, or did you negotiate with comfort? Did you move your body, focus your mind, honor your word? These actions may seem minor, but over weeks and months, they define who you are. Small decisions repeated daily are not small at all. They are the foundation of character. Rituals matter because they turn intention into identity. Doing the same things consistently, without exception, trains your brain and body to expect discipline. They remove negotiation. They remove uncertainty. When you follow your morning rituals, you are telling yourself, I am a person who acts. I am reliable. I am capable. Identity is built quietly before the world wakes up. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't require applause. But it becomes undeniable in your posture, your decisions, and the momentum you carry into the day. Small morning actions create big consequences. Repetition turns habits into character, and character becomes the life you live long after motivation fades. The way you start your morning is the way you negotiate with your life. If you don't take control early, the day will take control of you. Morning is the first battlefield, and most people lose it before they even get out of bed. They reach for their phone, they check messages, they absorb noise, opinions, squat, sekazil, zagav, and before they realize it, They are reacting instead of leading. If you don't own your morning, you spend the rest of the day catching up to decisions you never made. When you fail to control the morning, you hand your authority away. Your mood becomes dependent on circumstances. Your focus gets scattered. Your energy gets negotiated away in pieces. Life doesn't ask for permission. It fills the space you leave empty. And that's why so many people feel busy but not effective, tired but not fulfilled. They never claim the first hours that set the tone for everything else. The morning is not about productivity hacks or perfect routines. It's about command. It's about making one clear statement before the world speaks to you. I decide how today goes. That decision might look simple. Getting up when it's uncomfortable. Sitting in silence instead of noise. Moving your body before checking notifications. Choosing intention over impulse. Small actions, but powerful ones, because they train authority over self. Leading your morning is an act of leadership, not over others, over yourself. And self-leadership is the hardest leadership there is. No applause, no witnesses, no external pressure. Just you, your discipline, and your standards. Anyone can perform when they're watched. Leaders show up when no one is demanding it. When you take charge in the morning, you build momentum that no one can take from you. You start the day with a win, and wins compound. One controlled morning turns into a focused day. Focused days turn into disciplined weeks. Disciplined weeks turn into a life that moves forward with intention instead of accident. The world will always try to claim your attention. It will always be loud, urgent, demanding, but the strongest people decide before the noise begins. They don't ask the day how it will feel. They tell it who they are. That's the difference. That's why control over the morning becomes control over the mind, and control over the mind becomes control over life. You don't need a perfect morning. You need a decisive one where you act instead of react, one where you lead instead of follow. Because every morning is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming, and when you consistently choose discipline at the start of the day, life has no choice but to follow your lead. Every morning asks you a question, not with words, but with the feeling. Stay where it's warm, or step into who you're meant to become. That moment when the alarm goes off is not about sleep. It's about choice. The pain of getting up early is sharp, immediate, and honest. It lasts a few minutes. The pain of regret is quiet, slow, and relentless. It lasts a lifetime. Early mornings are uncomfortable. There's no romance in it. Your body resists. Your mind negotiates. It tells you that rest is necessary, that tomorrow will be better, that one more hour won't matter. But that voice is expensive. It charges interest. Every time you listen to it, you pay with momentum, discipline, and self-respect. The discomfort of waking up early fades quickly. The cost of not showing up compounds. Short-term discomfort builds long-term strength. Long-term comfort builds long-term weakness. That's the trade. Getting up early forces you to face resistance head-on. It trains you to move before you feel ready. It teaches you that you are not owned by comfort. And once you win that first battle, the rest of the day feels lighter. You've already proven something to yourself. Now weigh the real cost. Not the price of lost sleep, but the price of lost potential. What does it cost you to stay in bed? Missed opportunities, unfinished goals, skills never mastered, a future version of you that never fully arrives. Sleep feels free, but it's not. It quietly steals time from the only place it can take it from. Your becoming. Unrealized potential is the heaviest burden a person can carry. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in moments of doubt, in flashes of comparison, in that uncomfortable feeling that you could have done more. No amount of rest will ever remove that weight. Only action does. The people who rise early aren't special. They're disciplined. They decided that the price of discipline is cheaper than the price of regret. They understand that comfort always sends the bill later, and discipline collects up front. One makes you weaker. The other makes you free. So when the alarm goes off and everything inside you wants to stay still, remember this. You're not choosing between sleep and waking up. You're choosing between who you are now and who you could become. The pain of getting up will be forgotten by midday. The pain of regret will follow you for years. Pay the smaller price. Get up, win the morning, and spare yourself the pain that never lets go. A champion's mindset is built before the world wakes up, before the noise, before the demands, before the chaos starts pulling in every direction. Focus doesn't appear by accident. It's claimed early. If you wait until the day gets loud, you've already lost control. The strongest minds decide who they are before anything tries to tell them otherwise. Focus in the morning is an act of protection. You're protecting your attention, your energy, your standards, because once the day begins, everyone wants something from you. Your time, your emotions, your reaction. If you haven't set your direction early, you'll spend the rest of the day reacting instead of executing. Champions don't drift into focus. They lock it in. The morning is where you align your mind before pressure arrives. Silence before stimulation. Intention before information. Purpose before problems. That order matters. When you rush into the day without grounding yourself, your emotions become reactive. One message can throw you off. One delay can irritate you. One small problem can feel bigger than it is. But when you start with focus, the same challenges feel manageable. You're steady, not shaken. Every decision you make in the morning sets an emotional tone. Get up with intention and you carry calm authority into the day. Snooze the alarm, rush, scroll, and your nervous system stays in defense mode. You're tense, distracted, impatient, not because life is harder, but because you handed control away early. Champions understand that emotions are influenced, not random. They know that confidence, discipline, and composure are built through structure. That's why they don't leave their mornings to chance. They choose actions that create clarity, movement to wake the body, stillness to sharpen the mind, a reminder of purpose before problems appear. When you win the mental battle in the morning, you don't need to fight as hard later. You respond instead of react. You stay focused when others panic. You stay disciplined when others drift. That edge doesn't come from talent. It comes from preparation. The day will try to speed you up, distract you, and pull you out of alignment. That's guaranteed. But when you've already set your focus, chaos loses its power. Noise becomes background, pressure becomes fuel, and challenges become tasks, not threats. This is the mental setup of a champion. Decide first. Focus early. Lead your emotions instead of chasing them, because once the chaos begins, it's too late to ask for clarity. You either prepared for it or you're controlled by it. The day is decided long before most people realize it has begun. By the time the clock hits 9 in the morning, the advantage is already set. Not because of luck, not because of talent, but because of choices. While others are still waking up mentally, still scrolling, still negotiating with comfort, you either built momentum or you gave it away. And momentum is ruthless. Once it's lost, it's almost impossible to chase down. Those early hours create a gap that can't be closed later. Focus gained early compounds. Energy invested early multiplies. Discipline applied early simplifies everything that follows. When you start the day ahead, you don't rush, you don't panic, you don't feel behind. You move with control, and control is the real advantage. Most people try to win the day by working harder later. Longer hours, more stress, more urgency. But you can't outwork a bad start. A scattered morning creates a scattered mind. A reactive morning creates a reactive day. No matter how hard you push later, you're always correcting instead of creating. When you win the morning, the day is already yours. You've already made the hardest decisions. You've already done the things that require discipline. Everything after that is execution. Problems don't disappear, but they shrink. Pressure doesn't vanish, but it becomes manageable. You're not chasing the day. The day is following your lead. This is what most people never understand. Winning early isn't about doing more. It's about deciding first. You decide your pace. You decide your focus. You decide your standards. And once those are set, the rest of the day aligns around them. That's power. Now comes the final challenge. Tomorrow morning, there is no middle ground. You will either lead or you will be led. You will either act with intention or react to circumstance. You will either step forward as the architect of your day or drift as a victim of it. There is no neutral choice. Leadership begins the moment the alarm goes off, not when people are watching, not when results appear. In that quiet, private moment, you decide who's in control. Comfort or discipline, purpose or excuse, standards or surrender. Win the morning, and you don't have to fight for the day. Lose it, and you'll spend the next 12 hours trying to recover ground that was never meant to be given away. So decide now, not tomorrow. Decide who you're going to be when the morning comes. Because the morning doesn't lie, it reveals you. Win the morning or lose the day.